Hey, it's me. Oh my God, I'm live. I don't have my headphones in, so let me know if you can hear me. Is my mic working? I haven't done this in a while. So let's do a tech test first. That's hard to say. Can everyone hear me all right? I think you can hear me. It looks like my mic is on. I hope it is. So who we got? Hey, Sheila, I'm so glad to see you here. We've had such a great conversation emails. It's really good to see you here. Thank you for being here. Hi, Feeding It and Tess. Rotary Dial, so nice to see you. And Mira and Skraling, my husband and daughter, are here modding the chat. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, we're back. I took a break. As you know, all the crazy stuff going on in YouTube, I just needed a mental health break. And I'm done. Vacation time is over. Let's get back to work. I decided to reboot the ToxicBliss Breaking Free series. I wanted to start all over from scratch. No co-host, no anything weird going on. Let's just start over, right? Let's get into the topics a little more deeply, and let's just go with it. Because I think this is one of the most important things that's going on right now, certainly in my life, is to continue to bring awareness to this topic and to talk to all of you about it. So let's see. I'm going to keep an eye on chat because, I like to. A lot of people complain about when you do live streams, we don't just jump right to the topic. We do some chit chat first. I like to do the chit chat because I think you're all here to chit chat. So I want to say hi and welcome you and thank you for being here. So we'll do that. I've had a really great week. My husband took the week off work, right? I needed him home because I needed him home. My husband it's hard to say. I'm not sure what words to use. He's my rock. He's my centering, balancing energy. And when he's around, when he's home, nothing in the world is wrong. So I had him home for a week and it was wonderful. We've gotten some shopping. I got some new earrings. Finally got some new earrings, got a new ring, just went out about in the town. That was the first time I've been out and about in about a year and a half. It's been a long time since I've been outside. And it was a little scary because Texas is having some issues right now with the pandemic and the resurge and all that. And it was scary, but I was very safe. We didn't do anything crazy. And it was fun. It was exactly what I needed. So I'm very glad we did it. Thank you, Lisa. I'm glad to see you here. Language of Horses, thighs. So good to see you. So yeah, I got my hair cut. Actually, you know what? My husband cut my hair. Now, if that's not a show of trust, letting your husband at your lion's mane with a pair of scissors, that's a show of trust. Because I wanted to go to the salon, but not right now. Things are really bad here, and I wasn't going to go to a hair salon. And I was sick of my hair. I haven't had it cut since, March or February of 2020. And it was really long and unruly. And I'm like, you know what? Just cut it. And he was like, how? I just go like this and just cut it straight across. And he did. And he was like, all right. And because my hair is curly, it doesn't matter if it's a little uneven. It curls up enough so you don't even see it. And I'm like, cool. I love it. And then I colored it the next day. And I'm like, okay. So I'm back to myself. I'm getting back to reality. I am also wearing, look at this, Tess, my Gray Rock t-shirt. I don't know if you can see it. It's a new line of merch that we came out with a couple weeks ago. I love it. Gray Rock is certainly something I need in my life right now. It's a constant reminder. Plus, the shirt is special to me. The hand on the shirt, if you can see it again, that's my husband's hand. Right, so we'd photographed his hand for the design. And the rainbow swoosh is from Tess. She made a quilt with that design on it, and I stole it right off her quilt and used it on the t-shirt with her permission, of course. And so it's like, I've got my husband here, Tess is here, we're good, we got this, right? So yeah, this is a very important t-shirt to be wearing today, and Gray Rock is a thing. A couple episodes ago, we did a whole episode on Gray Rock and how to use the Gray Rock technique to deal with the narcissist or toxic people in your life. And it's something that has saved my behind several times, and I really like to talk about it, and I really like to remember that energy. Right? Just remember that energy. So we got a lot going on here. All right. So tonight, Amanda. Yay, Amanda made it. I hope you're feeling better. I hope everything's going all right. Let me know. We'll get in touch in Discord. All right. So tonight we're going to start over with this series. And we're going to start with red flags of narcissism, but a twist on it because I always have to do things different. It's my way. if you Google red flags of narcissism, you will get 10 million websites with lists and lists and lists of red flags. And they're all pretty accurate. There's a ton of red flags, but a lot of them that I experienced with my ex were very, very subtle. And a lot of the people that I've come into contact with the last couple of years who have been problematic were very, very, very subtle. And I want to talk about those red flags because these are the ones that they're really easy to overlook or to explain away or to rationalize and convince yourself that they're not actually red flags. So it's important. I think it's important because I've missed a lot of these, and the more I learn about it from my own experiences, the more I want to be like, hey, here's some more to add to this, right? Let's get a list going. So I want to talk about the more subtle red flags that you can pick up pretty early on in a relationship, like the first month. Okay, because these are the ones that I miss. When I first meet someone, I'm the type of person, I'm sure a lot of you are too, a lot of us that fall into these relationships tend to be the type of people that are very caring. We're very loving. We're very outgoing, at least, to an extent. But you always try to see the best in people. Right? So when you're meeting someone new, you never think they're going to have nefarious purposes or they're going to be coming at you like a predator. You don't think that. You think, oh, here's a nice new person I met. Cool. What are they interested in? What are they like? And you come at it with a very optimistic perspective. Right? And I don't think that's a bad thing. And that's not something I ever want to lose. Right? But there have been times, certainly recently, where I've said, you know what? Maybe having friends isn't worth it. And that's not good. That's not a good, healthy place to be. So the best way for me to go forward, and I've done a lot of soul searching about this, is keep going out there and keep making friends. Just be hyper aware of these red flags, especially the ones we're going to go over tonight. Be so aware of them that if I can tick off 3 or 4, I need to step away. Just period. Just because I know how I am. I will overlook, I will rationalize, I will justify anything that feels like a red flag because I want to think the best of this person. And that can also bite you in the butt pretty hard. So let's talk. Yes, collect data for a while. Exactly. I slow down. I will walk into a friendship very quickly because if someone's like, hey, I want to be your friend. I'm like, okay, hi, friend. What do we do today? No, slow down. Slow your roll. Put the brakes on. And let's do some investigating. All right. So one of the first things about these red flags is I've broken them up into almost like a time frame. Okay. When you can start seeing some of these particular red flags in the relationship, everywhere from day 1 to 3 months in. All right. So very early on red flags that tend to get overlooked. Now, as we go through the list, there's no single one of these things that is an immediate, oh my God, they're a narcissist, run away. No, it's not like that because a lot of these things can be normal interactions, right, with a normal person. But when you start seeing them add up and you start seeing a culmination of them, that's when you have to take notice. All right. So let's work on the first 2 weeks. All right. The first section are things that you might start noticing within the very first week or 2 of meeting someone. Now, this could be somebody that you're dating, right? Maybe you just met them, you think, ooh, maybe I want to date them. Or it could be maybe you get a new boss at work, could be a new friend on the internet, could be just somebody new that you're meeting, and the immediate things to start watching for. The first one that I put is early oversharing. Now, this is something that is something I generally kind of go, huh? Right? So it's not something I tend to overlook. And I'm sure you've all met someone, right? You meet someone on the internet. Say you share somebody's tweet and they send you a DM. Hi, how are you? And you're like, I'm good. Who are you? But they immediately start telling you really big, deep life stories. Things that you're like, you probably shouldn't be telling strangers that. Now, in my situation, it's a little different because a lot of people will email me after watching or listening to ToxicBliss and want to tell me their story. That's different because I've set up that framework. All right. So that doesn't worry me. But when someone out of the blue messages me on Facebook or Twitter or something and wants to tell me their life story, that's not related to this podcast, I get a little nervous. All right. So early oversharing. If like you're meeting your new boss and they sit you down and be like, oh yes, well, I grew up in this state and I lived here and I was married to this one, but oh, she was crazy. So I divorced her, but now I've got 3 kids and they're telling you all of this stuff and you're like, okay, right? Because you've literally just met them. That's kind of an issue. It's kind of an issue. So watch out for very early oversharing. It is a way to get your trust. Absolutely. They figure if they tell you some personal stuff, then you'll feel comfortable with them and you'll tell them personal stuff. Not that they really want to hear it at first, but it's a way to sort of break the barrier, but in a way that would definitely make me raise an eyebrow. Okay. So number 1, oversharing way too early. And I mean the first couple of meetings. All right. Next, getting too personal or not asking about you at all. It's like opposite extremes. Either of these can play into a toxic person. Either they will start asking you really personal questions very early. After they've spilled their life story, they're going to start asking you, what are your deepest fears? What are you most afraid of? What are your hopes and dreams? Where do you hope to be in 20 or 30 years? Or ask you about your spirituality and your religion and your parents and your past relationships. Really personal questions that would be okay if you've known the person for a while, but not after like 2 days. They almost to where you feel like they're prying, but they will couch it in a way that you could overlook. And this is why it's tricky, because they'll come at you with, oh, well, I told you about my ex. Yeah. Is that something you've ever been through? It's like, yeah, I had a bad ex. Really? What was it like? And they put it to you that way. So you feel like they're just really interested in you. And everybody likes to feel that someone's interested, right? With it, whatever your story. If someone's asking you questions like that, you're like, oh, this person really wants to know. They're really listening. That's kind of cool. Right. And you really get into that feeling of, oh, okay, I'll share if you're really interested. No, that's a bad move, especially if it's just the first week or 2 that you've met this person. Okay. So early oversharing, asking way too many personal questions, framed in a way that makes them look just really interested in you, because that's not what it is. Right. The opposite of that is not asking about you at all. Now, this is a more obvious one for a more typical narcissist type person, where when you sit down with them, say you go out to lunch at work, it's a work partner. Oh, let's go grab something for lunch. They're like, okay. So you go out for lunch and they start talking about them. And even if you try to interject something like a shared experience, oh yeah, I went through that once when I was in school and da-da-da, they will cut you off and just keep going on their story. Right? That's also something to watch for. That's more obvious. That's more typically narcissistic, where they're just not interested in you. They just want an audience to tell you their story. So either extreme of that, either they're not listening to you at all, or they're getting way too personal in the first couple of meetings. That's a bad sign. Okay. So those are 2 pretty obvious, but subtle. And I say obvious, but subtle. They're obvious, but they can be subtle because you can easily turn it around and like, oh, well, they're just nice. They're just a very open person. They just like to talk. They just want to know about me. So you can rationalize it away so doesn't seem as toxic as it really is. So there's 2 things to watch for. Hey, Jennifer, thank you. Thank you. My husband cut my hair. So all thanks go to Skraling, who was in chat, for his wonderful haircut. Thank you. All right, the next one, fast attachment and overstepping boundaries. Right now, this is... Wait, I want to get to Amanda's comment. Amanda says, I think I overshare because I want to put my faults out there in the first meeting because I only want true friends. Amanda, that is a really, really good point. And we'll talk about, let's come back to that. Don't let me forget that. Or can you copy and paste that into Discord for me? That's a big deal. But that's a different topic, so I don't want to get sidetracked. But that's definitely something we should come back for. And Julton says, I want to know more initially before dating because I have been abused by family X long ago. Yep. So I don't want to date someone nefarious. Yeah, exactly. I screen people too. Well, I should do more than I have been, but you tend to look up, and we're going to get to that. That is one of these things. When you're Googling just to find out if someone is who they say they are or whatever, that's kind of normal. But when we get into the more nefarious side of that, we're going to talk about that too. All right. So back to the list. Number 3, fast attachment and overstepping boundaries. All right. Now, remember, this is still in week 1 and week 2. So you've just met this person and all of a sudden they're being attached to you. right? Suppose it's your 4th day at work with this new person, and they're like, hey, I got tickets to the movie tonight. You want to come? And you're like, no, thanks. I just, no, it's okay. Because they don't know your life at all. They don't know what you do at night, if you have family, or maybe they've pestered it out of you and they know your basic life story already. But they will very quickly start asking you to do things. Hey, you want to go get a coffee after work? Hey, you want to go get a beer? Hey, you want to go out to dinner? Hey, I got tickets for this. Hey, why don't you come over this weekend and meet the fam? And you're like, I just met you like days ago. All right. Now, a lot of us, people like me, would be like, oh, they're really sweet. They're really open. They're very interested in making new friends. What a cool person. That's how I would normally react to that situation. But you've got to be cool. You've got to say, I've known this person for 3 or 4 days. I don't need to be in their house. They don't need to be in my house. Let's get to know them a little bit, right? So this is where we talked earlier about putting the brakes on, slowing your roll. Something like that in the first week or two is kind of a red flag. All right. Now, not by itself, but in combination with everything else, being really attached quickly, like wanting to text you, like the second day, hey, give me your number, let me text you. And then they start texting you every couple hours and you've only known them for 2 or 3 days. That's kind of a strange feeling, because in today's age with the internet, that seems very normal, right? But if it's going to be an interpersonal relationship, kind of slow that down, right? So that's something to keep in the back of your mind as a possible red flag. Overstepping boundaries. Like if you say, oh, no, I don't really like sports ball. Say they had tickets to a ball game. You're like, no, thanks. It's not really my thing. Oh, but come on, it'll be great. I got us seats in the box and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, no. Right? So if you say no and they're pushing you into something right there, that may be a very teeny little red flag, but they're still pushing your boundary. Right? And when you've just met someone's pushing your boundaries already, no, step back. Okay. So yeah, sports ball. I call it sports ball. It's whatever. So right there, if you've got all of these things happening in a line now, right? They're oversharing. They're asking you way too many personal questions. They're wanting to get attached to you, like swapping cell phone numbers and all this stuff. And they're overstepping your boundaries all within the first 4 or 5 days. You've got a problem. Now, none of these things by themselves look bad, but when you put them all together, you've got a problem. Okay, so be aware of that. Let's move on to the next one. This kind of goes on with it. I put, why didn't you answer my text? Okay, this is a big one for me. This is something that drives me bananas, right? I get a lot of messages on Facebook and emails and all this stuff, and I don't immediately respond to them, right? Once a day or maybe every other day, I'll sit down and go through my emails. And I'll answer some, maybe some I won't. I'll answer my Facebook messages, maybe some I won't. But I'll get to them when I get to them. All right. Now, I get a lot of people who will send me a message, and I don't read it right away because I'm doing other stuff and I haven't gotten to it yet. And even before I've read the first message, there will be 3 or 4 other messages. Why didn't you answer my message? Oh, I thought you wanted people to reach out to you. Well, I guess not. Fine. Bye. I'm like, they're having an imaginary argument with me before I've even noticed that they've messaged me. Right? That's a huge red flag. Now, someone in this situation, right, where you've just met them, it's only been a couple of days, and they send you a text and you don't answer them right away, and they come back with, hey, did you get my text? Why didn't you answer my text? Are you too busy? Sorry. Especially if they start to play the victim. Well, sorry, guess I won't bother you anymore. Come on. That is a real red flag. That's not just something we could overlook. That's a bad sign. All right. So pay attention to that. When you feel like you don't have the ability to answer them when you feel like it, because what happens in a normal situation? If you make a friend at the grocery store and you swap cell phone numbers before you leave the parking lot and they send you a text, you're going to answer it when you feel like it. Oh, yeah, that's that new person from the grocery store. I'll talk to them in a couple of days because I'm really busy right now. Right? That person should not immediately be offended by that. They'll be like, oh, well, they'll get back to me if they want to. If they don't get back to me, they didn't want to. Okay, moving on. That would be a normal reaction. But if they get upset by the fact that you didn't answer them right away after just meeting a few days ago, girl, you are in for a bad time. Okay, so that's one to watch for closely. Yep. Mira says she does the thing where she reads a message and plan to answer, but forget for a few days. I do that too. Sometimes I'll read my emails and I'll put a star on the ones that I want to reply to. But then the next day I'm busy with schoolwork or something. I don't get back to, oh gosh, I was going to answer those emails. And then I go back to them. That doesn't mean I don't like the people or I don't care about them or anything. It just means I got busy. I'm sorry. And so people that will react negatively, that's a big red flag. The next one, very early on in a relationship with a toxic person, you are going to hear, I promise you, within the first week or two, you will hear something where it's somebody else's fault. All right. If it's some new person at work, oh man, the boss talked to me today because he said I didn't do this paper right, but it's not my fault because so-and-so told me to do it this way. And now I'm in trouble already. So right off the bat, very early on, they are blaming somebody else for something they did wrong. This is the victim blaming or blaming somebody else for their own mistakes is a huge part of narcissism, but you will see it very, very early, right? So imagine now it's like day 7, right? They've overshared. They have gotten too personal with you. They've tried to overstep your boundaries and gotten attached. They're angry because you didn't answer the text right away. And they're complaining about somebody else at work or in some other situation that did something that they got in trouble for, right? And now you're like, all right, there are way too many check marks here on this sheet. I'm out. You should be out. You should turn and run away from this person. So yeah, if they start very early on saying that everything is always somebody else's fault, there you go. You got to go. You got to book it out of there. And the last thing for the first week or two is when you do sit down with them and have dinner or lunch or go to a movie or whatever, you're going to hear the story of their crazy ex. You will always hear the story of their crazy ex, especially if the crazy ex lives in town with you, because they will want to make sure if you ever encounter this person that you will know they were crazy before they said anything that could convince you otherwise. Okay. So yes, I need to sip a drink. I'm sorry. I'm very thirsty. So if you meet someone new and they tell you the story of their crazy ex in the first week or two, run. That's it. There's nothing. Like, I have a crazy ex. I have a whole podcast about my crazy ex. If I meet somebody brand new, like if I'm out shopping or whatever and meet somebody new, I'm not going to tell them about my horribly abusive relationship from 20 years ago. That's not your opening statement. That's once you know the person and you feel comfortable with them, then you share, right? But if they're sharing that right away, there's a reason. There's a reason. So let's get into weeks 3 and 4. So now you've been through the first 2 weeks. And if you've seen some of these and you've decided not to run away, well, all right, let's get into what happens next. One of the first things that you're going to see after about 3 weeks with a person like this is, oops, I lost my page. There we go. A very unhealthy emotional attachment, right? Like, we're talking in 3 or 4 weeks, all of a sudden, you're unlike anyone I've ever met in my life, right? Or, man, you just seem like my soulmate. You're my twin flame. I love you. After 3 weeks? No, that's not okay. But for people like me, when I met my ex, I thought that was wonderful. I was like, wow, because I was young and naive, and I thought, if he's feeling this already this fast, he must really be my soulmate, right? This is love at first sight. This is what the movies talk about. I'm a Disney princess and here's Prince Charming, right? No, stop with that nonsense. If somebody tells you, I love you after 3 weeks of knowing them, go, run for the hills. It's bad. That's a really bad red flag. As much as you may want that, and this is the problem that this is why so many of us fall for this crap, is because you want that. You want to feel that special to someone. You want to feel that someone could have just met you and can see all the wonderful things that you are, right? And really want to be with you. That's flattering. It feels good. It's validating, but it is not real. That's it. It's just not real. So yeah, collect more data. Absolutely. Absolutely. So when they start having the emotional attachment, right? Instead of saying just good night in a text message, they'll put a heart after it or something like that. Eggplant usually with the guys, but whatever. But if they start being very emotional at the 3rd or 4th week, you've got a problem, right? Now, another thing that they're going to do very early is they're going to start telling you how to do everything. Okay, now this is one thing that I overlooked a lot because I thought, man, he's trying to be so helpful. He's trying to make my life easier. He's got experience doing A, B, or C. So, of course, he's giving me good tips on how to do it. But no. It's not that. Okay, a genuine person who you just met, who is not a toxic partner, if they see you doing something that's challenging, they may offer to help right here. Oh, here, let me help you with that toner in the whatever at work, right? In the, what are that things called? I don't know what they're called anymore. Printer, Xerox machine, whatever. Let me help you with that. I know how to do it. And they'll show you how to do it. And you're like, oh, cool. Thank you. Now I know better, right? That's fine. But when it's something like how you curl your hair or how you did your eyeliner that morning, or, maybe telling you that women shouldn't wear so much makeup because they look like clowns or hussies or whatever, they will come with really, it's hard to explain because it is really subtle, but they'll come at you with, you should do this instead, or here's how I do this because my way's better, but in ways that are kind of personal and invasive. Does that make sense? And Caitlin, I am really sorry to hear that. They always resurface, don't they? I hope you're gray rocking or no contacting, whatever you have to do to keep yourself safe. Yeah, Amanda, thanks for the eggplant. All right, but yeah, offering to help. All right, offering to help you in ways that you don't really need help with. With my ex, it was a lot of things like parenting. Right? We'd be chatting on the phone and I'd be telling him about something my daughter was doing. Oh, well, here's what I do when my daughter does that. Da. This works really great. And I'm like, okay. Right? He's trying to be helpful. He's trying to help. And I kept rationalizing it as that, as he's trying to make my life better. Well, what it really was, he was being controlling. Just guising it under, or putting it under the guise of being helpful and trying to make my life better. But no, it was just control. All right, so if someone starts offering you all of this unsolicited advice about anything you're doing, right? How you dress, how you do your hair, how you change the toner at work, how you print out papers, whatever, anything, how you drive, right? They can help you with anything. If they start doing that a lot, that's a red flag. By itself, it may not be bad, but if it's with all of these other things, that's a big red flag. Very subtle, but watch out for that. Someone who's being really, really helpful can also be just being really, really controlling, just making it look like help because it's still new in the relationship. So, the next one. Let's move on to, all right. This is another one, like the one we had earlier with the two extremes. It's this or that. Either they won't stop talking about themselves or they ask you really invasive personal questions. This is kind of like that. Some toxic people will be very charming and very funny with others. Like if you go out to dinner, my ex did this all the time. He had a list of 5 or 6 dumb dad jokes, right? And wherever we went, if there was a waitress, he would tell them these dumb dad jokes every time they came to the table. And at first I was like, oh, he's just nice and outgoing, right? I'm sorry the jokes are bad. No, it was a script. It was a script. They don't understand basic human interactions. They have to learn them through things like watching movies and TV and watching other people, how other people interact. And they'll click on something, like with my ex, it was, oh, tell a joke to be funny, because people like funny people. Right? So he would come armed with these jokes to any social situation and tell these same jokes to people whenever he met them. And they would remember, oh, he was such a funny guy. Ha, ha, ha. No. When they're really that outgoing and they try to play the comedian or the charmer or slip the waitress an extra $20 on the tip or something like that, then that's probably a red flag. If they're really different with you in private. Okay, so if you start to see the difference and you see them putting on some sort of a showboating persona or a comedian persona or just any kind of different persona when you're in public, That's a red flag. Okay, it means they're putting on a facade for strangers that you don't see. And that's not being an authentic person. So a lot of us will do that. Like for people like me who are really introverted, when we go out, we may plaster a smile on our face and be like, hi. But inside we're like, oh my God, I want to go home. I don't like people, So everybody will put on a facade to an extent. But what I have seen in my situation is the constant comedian or the constant charmer type person. That's a red flag. So it's something to look out for in the first 3 or 4 weeks. I do have to cough. Excuse me for 1 second. Just going to go off camera. All right. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay. So next, playing the victim. Now, this is something you see with narcissists all the time. They're always playing the victim. Not all of them, but the vulnerable or covert narcissists are constantly the victim. Man, especially if somebody new at work and they say, this job is so much better. My last job, oh man, my boss was a jerk and this person tried to steal my job and that person did this to me and that person did this to me and my ex was so mean to me and they won't let me see my kids and my mother threw me out of the house when I was 12. And when you start getting all of that sort of repeated victim statements very early on, that's something to really watch for. That was my ex. He was definitely the victim type. He would always play the victim constantly in any situation, right? Even if we go to a restaurant and he got something not the way he ordered, they just don't like me because I'm bald. Whatever. He would always assume that they were doing something to him as opposed to, oh, they just made an accident, sent the wrong dish. Big deal. Send it back, right? Everything becomes a sort of victim state that they live in, right? That's a giant red flag. That's a very common one that we probably all know already. But let's move on now to the love bombing. This is where it gets interesting. After the first week or two, when they feel you out to see if they can rope you into the relationship, and they say, okay, it's going somewhere. All right, this could be it. Then the love bombing kicks in. And it will be a lot of things like the help. Remember how earlier we were talking about someone who's overly helpful? Well, here, if you do it this way, it'll be easier. Or let me help you with that because I know how to do this, or my way's better. That sort of thing, that's kind of love bombing. That's kind of a big red flag of how it's going to start. Like they want to help you with everything. And you say, oh, yeah, what are you doing tonight? Oh, I'm working on my new website. Oh, let me help you. I know web design. Oh, let me help you do this. I can do that. Or let me do this for you. Let me do that for you. When people are trying to do things for you that you didn't ask for help with, there are nice people that will do that, and that's not immediately a red flag. But if it's in conjunction with these other things, it's a red flag. And that's how love bombing can start. All right. And you see that a lot. You'll see them start helping, and then they'll start showing up with little gifts. Like, here, I bought you these new ergonomic laundry baskets to help when you're going to the laundromat. Haha, I'm so nice. Little things like that. Okay. But they'll start with the love bombing and under the guise of being helpful. And then it just comes straight up to gifts. Here, I bought you this. I bought you that. Gifts that you shouldn't be giving somebody after knowing them for 3 weeks. Like a gold bracelet or a necklace or a fancy watch or something expensive or extravagant that's not for any purpose. Right. So the love bombing starts. It's going to continue with the attention. Right, one thing a narcissist is early in the relationship is attentive. If you're lonely, you can, kiss your lonely worries goodbye if you've got a narcissist in your life. It may feel good at the time, and that's why a lot of us fall for it, because it does feel good to suddenly have someone who calls you first thing in the morning, who texts you right before you fall asleep, who's there all day, every day, whenever you need them or whenever they want to talk to you. They're just always there. Okay, that level of attention. It's a big part of love bombing, right? But it gets very sour quickly because you can't get away from it. You can't. If they send you a text in the middle of the day while you're at work and you don't answer it right away, they will be angry with you and you'll have to deal with it. All right. And then maybe the love bombing will stop for a day or two because you have to suffer. You did them wrong. So they won't talk to you for a day or two. Withholding their attention, that silent treatment thing, huge. And if you start seeing that in week 3 and week 4, you're done. It is done. Okay. So pay attention to the love bombing. Now I think we did a whole episode on love bombing. Pretty sure. If not, we are going to do one when we get there. But it's going to continue and it's going to ramp up. Okay, it's going to get into a lot of gifts. It's going to get into all the helpful stuff. They may even try love bombing people around you, right? If they have come to know one of your friends, they're going to try love bombing your friends to win them over to their side too as all of this progresses. So keep an eye on that. A normal person would not really go after your friends. They'll be nice, be like, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. Okay. But then, hey, can I text you? Or, hey, your friend Bob and I are going to go fishing this weekend. You're like, what? Why are you going fishing with my friend? Right? It feels weird. Excuse me, especially that early in a relationship. So watch out for the love bombing for yourself and for other people around you. Okay. Free time bandits. This is what I like to call people like my ex. He was a free time bandit. If he thought I didn't have anything going on a particular day, boom, all of a sudden my time was allotted to him. Like, it was just a given. It was expected that if I wasn't actually doing something, I was supposed to be talking to him. Right? Now, this was back in the day of AOL, right? So the AOL chat rooms were a thing, the text messaging. We didn't have cell phones really or anything back then. But if I didn't have school or something to do with a family or work or whatever I was doing, I was expected to be online on AOL talking to him every other moment of the day. That's not all right, especially 3 or 4 weeks into a relationship. It's definitely not okay. So if your free time is being hijacked and commandeered by somebody else, even if it's just a friend, this doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, even if it's just some girlfriend that you met online. If they expect you to be with them every free minute of their day, that's a problem. So keep that in mind. You should be able to say to a healthy person, all right, I'm just tired. I'm just going to go watch TV, take a bath, and do stuff. And they're like, okay, talk to you tomorrow. Bye. And not be angry. But if you say that and they're like, oh, come on, we were just started talking. Oh, can't you just stay up for a little while longer? And they keep that going. And then you say, no, sorry, I really have to go. And then they get angry with you. That's a problem because that's not okay. It's not normal. So free time bandits. Okay. Watch out for people who are stealing your free time. Next, they're still in the 3 to 4 week period. You get drawn into their preferred activities. Right. So not only are they commandeering all of your free time, but they want to spend that free time doing what they want to do without really even considering that there might be something different you would like to do. Right. If you want to go to the movies, you go see what movie they want. If you suggest a movie, they will scoff at you because no, who watches those? We're going to see this. This is a good movie. Trust me, you'll like it. This is a great movie. All right, buddy. So yeah, definitely watch out for the free time bandits who will push you into doing what they want you to do. Like, for instance, camping. I don't camp. I don't sleep outside. It's not my thing. I don't have anything against people that camp, but I just don't like it, right? But my ex wanted to go camping. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Right now, in a normal relationship, you may compromise, say, okay, we'll go camping for 1 weekend just to try it. But if I don't like it, I'm just not doing it. But it doesn't work that way in these toxic relationships. If you don't want to go camping, they will pout and they will make you pay for it. So they show no regard for what you want, your likes or dislikes. They expect you to take part in their activities and to like it. And if you don't like it, you'll suffer. So be very careful with that. Jilchin says, my twin sister tried to get me fired at work. Faxing things to public area, another job, called employer and told her to fire me, wanted me to be Cinderella with no friends. Yep. That's we're getting into that. And the next thing, the isolation. They want you to be miserable. And so all you have in their life is them. That is definitely their goal. All right. So drawn into their preferred activities. And now what you're going to see, especially, this applies more to friendships, right? Not necessarily romantic relationships. But you're going to see a lot of people saying things like, I really don't like that Sue Smith person. Do you? Now, I just made up that name. I don't know a Sue Smith. But when people come to you very early on in a relationship and try to get you to talk about the people that you don't like, that's a red flag. Okay. Now, on the internet, that is probably 90% of first conversations. Right? You'll be in a Facebook group posting back and forth about something, and someone will send you a DM. Oh, that person is really getting on my nerves. You too? right? If that's how somebody opens a conversation, that's a problem. That's a problem. If they're pulling at you to find out who you don't like and to gossip and all of that within the 3rd week of a relationship, big red flag. So mark that one down too. So now you're getting quite a long list so far. And the last one that I have in the 3rd or 4th week is you're going to start seeing grandiosity. Okay, now this may come very subtly if you have a covert or vulnerable type narc on your hands. But you're going to see grandiosity, the belief that they are special. All right, special in any way. Like with my exes, I have 4 black belts in different martial arts schools, and I can take down anyone. And he would want to start showing me moves and do sparring with me. And I'm like, I am not a martial arts person. Back then I wasn't. Now maybe I am. But back then it was not something that was me. I didn't do martial arts. But come on. You like this. You like this. Stand up right now. I'm going to punch you. And you block it. And I would have to do this sparring thing with him because that was what he thought made him special, being this martial arts expert. Right. And so, of course, I would have to take part in his activity, and he would put me through those moves, knowing that, if you're sparring with someone who's a martial arts expert, they should be able to do that without actually hurting you. But if they're a narcissist, that may be their way of hurting you intentionally, but making it look like, oh, I was just sparring. Right. So there's a red flag. But if they're trying to make themselves out as very, very special in any way, like they're a reincarnated being, or they're super enlightened, or whatever makes them special and different from everyone else in the world. Right. And we're talking very early in the relationship. That's a big red flag. Right. Because most people are just normal people. You don't have to be special to be a wonderful person, or everyone's special in their own way, but you don't really need to go lord it about. So when they're trying to convince you that they're special in some way, as opposed to you just seeing it because they are just doing something special, that's a red flag. So if you look at the first 4 weeks that we've gone over now, we have a whole list of red flags that are really subtle. And you could easily overlook any of them and rationalize them as, oh, they're just quirky. No. Put all of these things together. If you can check off 5 or 6 of anything that we've just talked about, you should probably go running as fast as you can away from this person. So to tie it up, I want to move into weeks 5 and 6. All right. So now you're about hitting the 2-month mark with this person. And this is where it's going to start changing. Now, in my experience, a narcissist can maintain their love-bombing, super special, wonderful facade for about 3 months tops. And 3 months is the long side of it. Before you're going to see that mask slip, you're going to see their true form, and you're going to get glimpses of it around the 2-month mark. So we're going to talk about that. But first, let me catch up with chat because I haven't been catching up with chat too much. Jillian became the family scapegoat. Yes, the family dynamic when it comes to narcissists and the people who call them out, that's rough times. It is. It does come out eventually. Yep. All right, let's move back on to the 2nd month. All right, weeks 5 and 6. This is where it's going to start changing. Right? They can't stand to be apart from you. Right? That we saw that starting in weeks 3 and 4. Maybe you're already living together. Now remember that these relationships move super fast. Like from week 1, you meet them. Week 3, all of a sudden they're in love with you. Week 5 or 6, you're living together. That's abnormally fast, and that should always be a red flag. Okay? Yes, there are some people who can meet and fall in love and get married and live a wonderful life after just meeting for a week or 2. But most people, most normal people, will take a couple of weeks or a couple months to get to know someone, maybe 6 months. All right. But a lot of times you're going to see someone like this, a very toxic or narcissistic person, have some sort of crisis in their life. Oh, I got kicked out of my apartment, or, oh, the water main broke and we had to all move out. It's an emergency. Can I stay with you? Or goodness knows what. It could be a financial disaster, fired for work. For some reason, they may come to you and be like, hey, can I move in with you? After like a month or 2. That's a bad idea. Okay. But it happens so often. Someone was saying in chat earlier, they got married after 6 weeks? Yeah, that happens a lot. So watch out for that sort of jump in escalation of the relationship from, okay, we're dating and they're saying they love me and stuff, but now we're living together and it's been 6 weeks. Yeah, you're probably in for some rough times. So you may move in together very quickly. The love bombing will continue and it will ramp up for a little bit. But as soon as they notice that they've got you, now you are invested in the relationship. That's over. Okay. And this is why the mask slips. Because once they think they have you in the relationship, there's no need to continue that facade. And that's when you start to see the glimpses of the real them. You're going to see things like, how come they don't have any friends? Right? You guys might start arguing every time you want to go out and do something with one of your friends and they don't want you to. But how come they never want to go out with their friends? Where are their friends? Have you met any of them? Probably not. All right, so keep an eye out for that. Where's their family? How come they aren't getting called to go to family picnics or birthdays or whatever? They don't have any family events? What's going on there? Right, so that's a big red flag. You're going to notice a lot of debt. A lot of times, these types of toxic people will have a lot of debt to friends and family, as well as, banks and other things. But people loan them money a lot and they never pay it back. And then they stop talking to them. So if you start to see that, now this is after you're living together, you're going to start to uncover these kinds of things. So a lot of debt with friends and family is a red flag. Lack of friends and family is a red flag. The love bombing starts to drop off and you're like, hey, you don't bring me flowers anymore. It's only been 2 months. What gives? And then everything you do, remember I talked earlier about they want to be helpful all the time? Now it ramps up to the point where every single thing you do, they know a better way to do it. Just do it this way. This is my way. My way's better, right? Now, it's one thing. There are genuine circumstances where that happens. I love my husband very much, but he doesn't know how to do certain things in the kitchen. So I help him. But that doesn't mean it's not a narcissistic thing. It's here. Let me show you because you've never learned how to do this, right? But with a toxic person, it's going to be everything. How you fold your towels, how you turn on the shower, how you brush your teeth, how you comb your hair, how you make the bed, how you vacuum the floor. Every single thing that you do, they will have a better way to do it. All right. Now that is control. That is a control freaky thing. And it is going to get much, much worse from housework and stuff. So when you see that, you really got to be careful. Okay. Prisu says, my husband has no friends and he tries to isolate me. Yeah, that sounds like he's definitely fits this bill. Catnip, there you are. Hi, how are you doing? I'm so glad to see you. Yes, the micromanaging of everything. That's exactly what it is. They want to micromanage every breath you take. All right, and you'll see that as soon as you start living together. But you got to be careful. That will always lead to disaster. Okay, so make sure you pay attention to that one. Everything also becomes a competition. Right? Who can wash the sink of dishes the fastest, or who can carry up the groceries the fastest, or who can cook the hamburgers the fastest. Everything in normal life is suddenly a competition. Who can drink a can of soda the fastest? And you're like, why is everything a competition? Why are you doing that? Because they have to win. Because it makes them feel better. It validates them. So when you start seeing little, what may seem like innocuous competitions on the surface, and you see that a lot, that's a big red flag. That's something that most people wouldn't even pick up on. But that's a big deal. So make sure you make a note of that too. And guilt trips. Very early. Like we're talking week 5 and 6 now. Maybe you've just started living together. You're going to get guilt trips about why you didn't go out to dinner with them, or why you need a night to go spend some time with your mom, or why you want to take a bubble bath with the door closed. Everything like that, you're going to start getting guilt trips. All right. So now, just the ones that we've listed here in this section, the 5 to 6 weeks, are pretty important. They're very important ones. They are easy to overlook on their own, but as a whole, you need to move out. I know you may have just let them move in with you, but it's time for you to go quickly. So let me have another drink. All right, week 7 to 9. Now the mask is off, okay? If you've stayed together this long and they're living with you and you've seen the red flags that we've talked about, now it's almost too late. You're in it, and now you're going to have to fight to get out of it. It's not going to be easy. Week 7 to 9, this is where the isolation begins. A lot of people in chat right now are talking about isolation. One of the first things a narcissist will do when they think they have you in the relationship and you have decided to be in this relationship is to isolate you from all of your friends and family. All right, they'll start by telling you things like, I don't really like your brother. He's kind of a jerk. He said blah, 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 and I didn't appreciate that. And I don't want to have him over anymore. And you're like, it's my brother. And they're like, so I don't want him in my house. Like, your house? Okay. Thought this was my house, but whatever. But you'll start to see that, right? They won't like some of your family members. They won't like your friends. They won't like people that text you late at night. They won't like it when your phone rings, right? Every time someone calls you on your phone, they'll be like, and you'll see that. You get the eye roll. You'll get the dramatic sigh, like somebody's taking your time away from them again. And they'll be very resentful of that. And you're going to start to see that within the first 2 months of the relationship. Right now, when it starts, it'll be kind of subtle. They just won't like someone and won't want them around. But as it progresses, they will absolutely forbid you from seeing the people that they don't like. And guess who the people that they don't like are? The people in your circle that can see through their bullshit. And they will pick up on that instantly. And they will not want you around that person because that person might convince you that they're a narcissist or toxic. So they have to keep you away from them because that person will convince you, that's a bad person. Don't go near them. Right? So the isolation is a big, big part of it. Okay. If you start to feel any sort of that isolation thing, you have got to do something right away. All right, because I promise you, if they're isolating you in the first 2 months, it is never going to end well. The relationship has to end. Okay, so when we get to, I have one video up already on how to leave a narcissist. There's a lot involved in that. You can't just walk out the door. Okay, there's so much involved with this. But if you start to see isolation, it's time to be worried and be concerned. Okay, so isolation. You're going to start to see the negative comments and the digs at you. Right, but they're going to play them off as jokes at first. Right, they're just making a joke. Oh, you're so silly. You don't even know, whatever. Right, they're just little comments that they'll make as silly jokes. Oh, hey, I asked my friend from work to come over for dinner, but I had to order out because my wife, she's so cute, but she can't cook. Anything like that, public or private, little digs at you where they play it off as a joke. That's not okay. Now, sometimes by itself, this is not always a bad thing. I'm a very sarcastic person. My family is very sarcastic. We pick on each other and play, but I don't think we ever had a moment where we think, hey, are you playing? We're like, wait a minute, do you really mean that? So by itself, it's not bad. But when you couple the joking like that, if it makes you feel bad, it's bad. Okay, if it makes you feel bad and you say to them, I feel bad when you do that, please don't, and they continue, it's bad. All right, so judge it against that, whether they make digs at you, but it's in conjunction with other red flags, and it makes you feel bad, and they won't change the behavior. Okay, so that's a huge red flag. Future planning. Now, this is a monster for me. This is something my ex did almost every day of our relationship. The future planning or future faking. Right. Well, as soon as I get that job that I've been going for, we're going to have all this money. Oh, I can't wait till we buy this house over here. Isn't it going to be great? And then we can do this and then we can do that. And then, and I'm going to take you on vacation anywhere you want to go. Right. When they start being really heavy with the future planning, selling you on a future that probably is never going to happen. That's, it's too late. You're in it, and now you have to figure out how to get out of it. So watch out. Very careful of future planning or selling you something that's going to happen down the road. Because if you're in a good, healthy, loving relationship, the relationship should be fine right now. You shouldn't have to wait for 4 or 5 years till they get a job for you to have a good relationship. It should be good right now. Even if you're in a crappy apartment and you don't have any money, your relationship should still be good. Right? So if they're doing a lot of future planning, there's a big problem. Next, secretive behavior. Okay, now this I saw within the first 3 or 4 weeks of my relationship. They hide their phone, they hide their internet activity, they're late coming home from work, they don't want to explain where they've been or what they're doing, or they demand access to all of your phone stuff, but you're not allowed to look at theirs. Or every time you talk, they put their phone face down, right? Just all when you start seeing those little secretive things, or they get very possessive of their privacy, that's a red flag. Now, it's okay to have healthy privacy, especially if you're new to a relationship. But if it's a consistent hiding of things, there's a problem. All right. So future planning, secretive behavior, the arguments are going to start now. Okay, this is the point in the relationship where the actual arguments, not just little play fights, these are actual arguments, and they're going to be big, and they'll be out of the blue. Totally, you have no idea what sparked it, but all of a sudden they're going to be pissed off and yelling at you, and you're just going to be like, what just happened? Right? And they won't be able to explain it. You won't be able to have a calm, rational conversation with them. They will say, okay, I understand you're upset. Can you tell me why? No, that doesn't happen with a narcissist. They will just yell until they get it out of their system. They'll stomp off. They'll give you the silent treatment. They'll go away for a couple days. And you're left sitting there like, what did I do? And you won't have any idea because you know what? You didn't do anything. All right. So that's going to start. You're going to see that after about 2 months. All right. Especially if you're living together. The gaslighting is going to happen. We'll have a whole episode on gaslighting, but you're going to be like, hey, last week you said we were going to do this tonight. I never said that. Yeah, you did. We talked about going to this movie because I ordered tickets right after we talked about it. Remember? No, I never said that. I don't want to see that movie. And you're like, what are you talking about? Right, so you're going to feel little things like that. And the gaslighting is the beginning of the crazy making phase, where they will literally make you doubt reality as you know it, because they're very good at that. And also the blame game. Right, so when you're in, the 2 month point, you're going to get blamed for everything. Everyone else will get blamed for everything, which always happens. But now it's going to be hitting you. It's your fault they got fired from work. It's your fault they were late. It's your fault this happened or that happened. Whatever happens, it's going to be your fault. Trust me. Everything will be your fault from this point forward. All right. So those are some of the very subtle early warning signs in the first couple months of a toxic relationship. Now, if you go back through this video and you write them down and you can check off 50%, you need to get out of that relationship. There are no questions left. Go. Right? You're not going to fix them. You're not going to make it better. It's only going to get worse from there. So, these are more subtle. I do encourage you to Google the red flags of narcissism, because there are hundreds that are very obvious. Right? But I wanted to focus on the more subtle things, the ones that I know personally I have overlooked. I have, just said, that's fine. They're just being a nice person. No, it's not really that. Some big ones that may happen if you stay in a relationship longer than this, you're going to see things like they like to ruin holidays and birthdays. Christmas with a narcissist is never going to be fun. Thanksgiving, forget it. July 4th family picnics, no, you're not going. Birthdays, forget it. They will ruin all of this stuff, and they do it quite intentionally. All right, so ruined holidays. Job problems, if they keep turning over in their job, every couple of months they have to get a new job. There's a lot of drama. Everyone at work is stupid, or they get a new job and they're really quick to get a promotion, but then boom, a week later they're fired. You'll see that a lot. All right, that's a big problem. Arguments may end with you. If you find yourself apologizing to them for something that they did, no, that's not okay. All right, and after 2 months, you're going to start seeing that. Right, that's part of the crazy making and the gaslighting. Well, they will make you responsible for everything that they do. That's part of the blame shifting. You're going to see projection and deflection and the silent treatment and all of that crap within 2 to 3 months of this relationship. So that's how fast these relationships go. You'll meet them. You'll fall in love fast. It'll be like, July 4th fireworks and Disneyland and all this wonderful stuff for about 8 weeks. Then it's just going to suck. And it will never stop sucking after that point. So let me catch up with chat. That was a lot of talking. Those are my subtle red flags to watch out for early on in a relationship. There's a lot more, and I'm sure we'll do more videos on other red flags, some of the more obvious, some of the ones that are more tied to narcissistic personality disorder, as opposed to they're just a toxic person. right? Because not all toxic people are narcissists, and whatever. But these are things that you will see in just your average toxic type person. Okay, none of these things make anyone a narcissist. There's no diagnosing going on here. But when you see these behaviors, it's a pattern, and a pattern you need to pay attention to. So let's see what's going on in chat. Mir says, remember the pressure to say yes to anything they ask, and such a negative reaction you say no, or even try to say no. Absolutely, you don't say no to a narcissist, because you'll pay for it. They will. Julian said, I didn't want to believe my twin sister was. I could see X, but yeah, it's much harder when it's a family member. Much harder to really see this type of behavior in a family member, because you don't want it to be true. You really don't, but sometimes it just is. None of you better be dating anyone who can't hold down a job. That's a lesson I learned. Goodness gracious me. That was very hard. Every couple of weeks you have to be getting a new job, and it was always some entry level, like a clerk at the dollar store or McDonald's or whatever. That was his job, because he'd get there, get in 2 or 3 weeks later, have a fight with someone, and be out of a job. And there were times where he kept saying, oh, I got to go to work. Find out he was leaving the house every day and didn't actually have a job for a couple of weeks. Just never told me. He would just go out and hang outside and pretend he was at work. Yeah, goodness. That's a problem. Oh. So anyway, so that's episode 1 of our new Breaking Free series. Can I talk about false accusations? In regards to toxic relationships where they blame your friends and people for things that they actually did, or just making stuff up, because that happens a lot. If there's someone they're trying to isolate you from, they'll use like the process of triangulation, where they will say, you're not going to believe what your friend did. They did this terrible thing, and try to get you to believe it so you will stop talking to that person. That happens an awful lot. That's part of it's like everything. Like it's like gaslighting, it's deflection, it's triangulation of blame you for stuff you didn't do. Oh, of course. First they'll blame you for everything they did, but then, like with my ex, it was cheating, right? He kept saying, I want to see your internet or your email. I'm like, okay, are you cheating on me? No, I never cheated on him, but he was convinced I would. Why? Because he was cheating. All right. A lot of the times, TCE, they will blame you for things that they are actually doing, not you. Right? Because that takes the pressure off themselves. So my ex would constantly accuse me of cheating because he was cheating. And if I was having to be defensive, I would never do that. Why would you think I would cheat on you? I love you. And you don't love me enough because you're cheating on me. Right? So he would get that supply from me, because of course I would react. I don't want you to think I'm cheating on you. I love you. Why would you think that? But he would blame me because he was. So then I wasn't looking at his behavior. I was looking at my behavior. What can I do to make him feel? Is that piece of glitter on my arm? Has that been there this whole time? I'm sorry about that. I just noticed that. Sorry, distracted by shiny things. Yes, they will blame you for things that they are doing, usually. So if you feel like your toxic partner is blaming you for stuff that you didn't do, chances are they're doing that exact thing. So you should check it out. Do a little investigative work there. Falcon, it's good to see you. Hey, I got my Grey Rock shirt. Falcon has a Grey Rock shirt too, so we can be Grey Rock buddies. Oh, yep. They accuse you to deflect or to get a reaction for amusement. Yep. TCE says, I have a brother who has raged and accused me and my mom of false things when we were addressed his behavior separately. Yep. A lot of that is if you come at a narcissist with, you did this and it was really wrong, they will immediately respond with, but what about when you did blah, 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 right? They'll immediately turn it around to something you did, whether it's true or not. And they will just make up something you did, because that's deflection. They're taking the focus off them and putting it on you, right? And it's a conversation that it's pointless to have. It's pointless because you're not going to get through to them. You're not going to get them to admit what they did wrong. They are bent on blaming it on you somehow. And that usually happens through, oh, well, you think I did that? Well, remember 12 years ago when we were kids and you stole my bike? And you're like, what? That has nothing to do with this. But to them, it does, because it gets you off your footing. So yeah, blaming you for stuff, absolutely. Yep. Definitely will make things up, for sure. Yep. Cheaters are paranoid because they are. Exactly. They'll absolutely project what they themselves are doing onto everyone else. Because if you're guilty of doing something, then you're paranoid that everyone else is guilty of doing it. A lot of times, one thing that my husband and I had to talk about, a lot of things that happen at work. He's a pawnbroker, and a lot of strange stories come into that shop. And we'll say, people wouldn't accuse somebody of doing something unless they've done it themselves or are doing it themselves. And you can really see that in that type of environment where people are spinning stories to try and convince the pawnbroker to buy their crappy item that's either stolen or not good or whatever. So there's a lot of that happens, especially with these people. This makes no sense, but you have this tiny smile while I was fighting. Yes! Feeding it. Yes, absolutely. There is on Netflix, there is a series, and I think it's called I Am a Killer. Yeah, I Am a Killer on Netflix. And if you watch the first episode, I think it's first episode, the guy that's on it reminds me so much of my ex. Not the way he looks, but his facial expressions. When he's being angry with the interviewer, he gets this really tight smirk, like, I'm so mad. I can't even fake it. I don't even know how he does that. But it's this fake smirk that's just under this veneer of a snarl. And you can tell he is delighting in faking this anger. There's so many things you could chalk that up to. But they love being angry. They love playing being angry. And they will get this weird smirk underneath their angry face. It's so weird. It's so weird. I'll have to find a picture of that guy because it is so perfect. When I saw that, I was like triggered to the moon and back, because that is the exact face my ex would make when I would call him out on something. And he was lying and being angry with me to deflect, even though I had, his phone in my hand with all of his texts with his new girlfriend. I didn't do that. You're making that up. You're the cheater. Ha ha ha. I mean, you're the cheater, and be really mad. It's that face. It's crazy. So I will go watch that and get some screenshots of that face, because it's like Duper's Delight, but in a more sick and twisted way. It's like, I am delighting in making you question yourself and making you feel bad and hurting you, and just having this chance to just be angry and yell and be mad, because I like to be mad. Ha ha. So yeah, it's sick. It is sick. Duper's Delight, that's part of it, but it's more than that. Duper's Delight is certainly when you feel like you're getting something over on someone and you can't help but smile, like, haha, they believe me, haha, getting away with it. That's sort of Duper's Delight. But this is Duper's Delight with a dose of just nasty toxicness behind it. Toxicity, maybe it's a better word. But yeah, it's awful. It's awful. Yeah, Duper's Delight is when you're lying and you're getting away with something. This is that plus I'm hurting you, and I find that delightful. Because they really do. And remember, it's like the narcissist wants supply from you, right? Any reaction you give them, whether it's positive or negative, is still giving them that supply, right? So you can be really sweet and fawning all over them and throwing yourself at their feet, and they'll like that just as much as you can be cowering at fear because they're really angry and you're afraid of them. Or you can be howling at them because you're really mad. You can be yelling and throwing things. Whatever. Any reaction you give them at all is supply, and negative attention is better than no attention. So if you start to pull back, they might try pissing you off just to get a fight, because as long as you're fighting with them, I guess that means you care or something in their world. So yeah. Good for you, TCE. TCE told her brother I was cutting ties with him. That's hard to do with family. We have an episode that I guess we're going to get to now again in the reboot, where breaking ties with family. And that's really hard. That is so hard to do. But Kelly says, sounds like you and I were in the same book at one time. Kelly, this is the weird thing. Almost everyone I talk to, right, where we share our stories about our narcissistic ex, we have the same story. Like, did we date the same guy? You know how many people I have asked, did we date the same guy? because they say the same words, like literally, like they're reading from a script. They have the same behaviors. A lot of them even have the same facial expressions, the same body mannerisms. It's like, how is this just, random people around the world? And I've often thought that there is a physiological component to narcissistic personality disorder that we haven't uncovered yet. Like there's something in the brain, something in the DNA, something physiological. It's not just psychological. There's something biological that creates narcissistic personality disorder. I don't know if that's true. That's a hypothesis, not even a hypothesis, not even a theory. It's an idea that I've had. And I've been watching studies. There have been studies that have been looking at brain scans of people diagnosed with NPD and finding similarities and things. So, maybe it is. Maybe it is. But they're so similar that it's terrifying. Yeah, there must be a narcissistic university. They have the same books. They have the same scripts, the same stories. They walk the same. There are times when I'll see somebody walking down the street and freak out thinking it's my ex. But of course it's not. It's not. But they walk the same way. They carry themselves the same way. And it's crazy. It is really, really weird. And when I first started learning about narcissism, I joined a group on the internet talking about narcissists. And I was astounded just going back historically, reading all the posts. I'm like, did everybody in this group, there are 13,000 people in this group, did they all date my ex? No, but they're just that similar. So, yeah, it's crazy. Breaking ties with family. I'm not sure it's public right now, TC. I've just restarted this series because I don't have the co-host anymore and all of that. So most of those are private, but we will certainly get back to dealing with narcissistic family members because it's really hard, right? And it's something that I deal with. Both of my parents have some issues. One is for sure a narcissist. One is possibly, some other issues, but I've had to cut ties like with my own father. I don't speak to him at all. No relationship at all. Total no contact. And that was very hard. And learning to navigate a healthy relationship with my mother is very challenging. And certainly my brother, so I've been down the family road and it's not fun. It is not fun at all. So we'll definitely get into that because you just have to do it. You have to rip off the Band-Aid and it hurts and it sucks. But they're like feeding it just said life has been sane ever since I moved 2,000 miles away from my family and my ex and all of that and started fresh in a new part of the country that I really don't fit in well. So here, I'm not a Texan at heart. But that was the best thing I ever did, was getting far away and just be like, this is my life. Myself, my husband, my children, our cats. This is my life. Everything else is external and it's okay. Okay, but it is hard. It's hard to do that. So yeah, we will definitely talk about that. Yeah, life has been sane ever since. Yep. It's definitely hard. All right, so that's tonight's topic. Thank you all for being here. We're definitely going to keep doing this every Thursday at 7 p.m. And if there's anything specific that you want to talk about, like TCE wants to talk about leaving a family, so I will make a note of that. We're going to go over all of it because there's so much to these relationships. How to spot them so you don't get in them. How to teach your children not to get in them and also not to be toxic people. How to navigate work situations, family situations, everything. Right? But also the most important thing that I focus on with my story of Toxic Bliss is how to get out of a narcissistic, abusive relationship alive, because not everyone makes it out alive. So learning how to get out of it safely with the proper tools in place and the proper knowledge, and then how to recover from it, because you're talking years of therapy and help and support groups and on and on and on. So that's what we're going to talk about. Someone thought they were too sensitive. That's something you're going to hear that all the time. A toxic person will always tell you you're too sensitive. Always. Why are you so sensitive? Why are you overreacting? Why do you get so upset about everything? God, can't you just be normal? I hate that. I hate that line. Yep. You're so sensitive. Well, yeah, because I'm a person with a heart. I care about people. Sue me. So anyway, thank you all for being here. Next week, we're going to continue on, starting again from the top. So lots of stuff. If you want to email me, go ahead. If you want to suggest something to talk about in one of the soon upcoming episodes, leave a comment down below, and I will get to it, and we'll just keep going. So I will see you next week. If you want to join us over in Discord, if you're not there now, Discord is still closed for the moment, but we'll be opening that up in a week or two. So check back for links to that. So thank you for being here. Take care. Stay safe out there. Remember, gray rock is your best friend. Gray rock. Do it. It'll save you. All right. And I will talk to you soon. Good night. Let me find the exit button. There we go. Good night.